There is something I must tell you, and I do not speak this lightly, for it concerns the very architecture of your soul. You who have always felt broken, as though some invisible hand pressed upon your chest, while others breathed freely. You who look into the mirror and cannot quite name what stares back. You, the ones who have carried a shadow inside you that others pretend does not exist. You are not defective. You are not ill. You are awake. To be awake in a sleeping world is to bleed where others walk untouched. It is to see what lies behind the mask while everyone applauds the performance. And so, your suffering is not the product of failure, but of perception. A perception that penetrates deeper than most are willing to go. You were born with an eye that sees the cracks in the collective illusion, and such a gift often feels like a curse before it becomes power. You ask why you feel broken. But what if I were to tell you, you are broken only because you have touched truth in a world built on repression. You have heard the whisper of the unconscious calling you to something deeper, something ancient and something terrifying. And the moment you acknowledged that whisper, the world began to call you strange. From the time of our earliest myths, we have been warned, those who speak to spirits, those who dream vividly, those who descend into themselves, they are not welcome in the village square. They are feared, exiled, crucified, and yet they are the midwives of transformation. You are among them. The great psychic wound you carry is not solely personal. It is archetypal. You bear the burden of the collective shadow. You feel the pain that others refuse to admit exists. You hold, often unconsciously, the disowned emotions of your family, your community, your civilization. Like a sensitive vessel, your soul has absorbed what others discarded, their rage, their grief, their unspoken traumas. They ripple through your dreams, through your symptoms, through your unexplained heaviness. Let us speak of the shadow, for it is your companion, your mirror, your burden. The shadow is not evil. It is not demonic. It is the repressed, rejected self, the denied desires, the unlived potentials, the truth society declared unworthy. When you feel broken, it is because you are wrestling with this shadow and it has not yet been integrated. You are half yourself living in a daylight world while your darker twin cries out from the unconscious. This is the tragedy of the modern soul, to be fragmented, to be told that you must always be happy, always be productive, always be normal, while inside you carry the mythic chaos of gods and monsters. But to repress the shadow is to damn the soul, and those who feel most broken are often those closest to their own wholeness. They are simply further along the descent, deeper into the cave, closer to the dragon. Yes, the dragon. Have you not felt its breath? It lives at the edge of your dreams, its eyes glowing in nightmares, its presence rising as panic, depression, confusion. The dragon is your shadow in symbolic form, guarding the treasure of the self. For beneath the wound lies the medicine. Beneath your brokenness lies the wholeness you are destined to reclaim. But to do so, you must go where others will not. The journey of individuation begins not in light, but in darkness. It begins with the acknowledgement, I am not who I pretended to be. It begins with the tearing down of facades, the grieving of false identities, the confrontation of what you hate in others and fear in yourself. You have felt these deaths already. That is why you feel broken. But I ask you, could it be that you are not breaking down, but breaking open when the persona, the social mask, shatters? The soul finds room to breathe. This is a sacred wound. This is the descent into the underworld of the psyche, where symbols become language and suffering becomes sacrament. You are not lost. My friend, you are undergoing a transformation the world has forgotten how to honor. Let me tell you about a patient, a young woman who came to me in great distress. She believed she was losing her mind. She spoke of strange dreams of drowning in water, of birds without wings, of a child locked in a burning house, her family dismissed. Doctors gave her pills, but I listened not to her symptoms, but to her soul. These dreams, you see, were not madness. They were messages. The water was emotion. The birds, her lost potentials. The child, her abandoned innocence. As she began to dialogue with these symbols, not analyze them clinically, but feel them, honor them. Something began to shift. Her symptoms became stories. Her pain became purpose. She was not cured. She was transformed because she stopped denying what others could not see. You have dreams like this. You may not remember them. But your psyche is always speaking through symbols, through moods, through synchronicity. The world responds to your inner state. You sense this, and it disturbs you. Others walk through life as if it were a stage. You walk through it as if it were a mirror. You see meaning where they see chance. You feel the pull of invisible threads, the presence of things unspoken. And so you are told you are too much, too sensitive, too intense. But what you are is too aware. You have peeled back the veil. You have seen what others deny. And this is no small feat. It is the work of a lifetime of lifetimes. It is the work of the mystic, the alchemist, the wounded healer. But beware, there is a danger in awakening. Once the soul begins to see, it also begins to mourn. The illusions fall away, and grief rushes in, the grief of a world asleep, the grief of a childhood stolen by unconscious patterns, the grief of feeling alone in a room full of people. Do not resist this grief. It is holy. It is the rain that washes the dust from the soul's eyes. If you feel broken, it is because your soul refuses to fit into a lie. And this refusal, though painful, is your liberation. The brokenness is a gateway, a crack in the wall of the false self, and through that crack, the light of the self shines. Not the ego, not the persona, but the self, that archetype of wholeness that lives within you like a buried sun. Do you remember your childhood dreams? The ones before the world told you who to be. Perhaps you dreamt of flying, of falling, of talking animals, or strange visitors. These were not fantasies. They were psychic messages, archetypal whispers from the deeper mind. You were in contact with a great reservoir of the collective unconscious. And though you have forgotten, your soul. Remember, the path ahead is not to return to childhood, but to reclaim the imagination it held, not imagination as escape, but imagination as sacred perception, the ability to see with the eyes of the heart. This is what others deny. They deny the soul, they deny the symbols, they deny death, shadow, mystery. And so they build a world of surfaces, but you have always felt that surface was not enough. You knew there was more, and this knowing has made you ache. But let me say this, and let it burn into your bones. Your brokenness is a signal that your soul is alive. It is the tremble of transformation. It is the calling of something ancient in you, the archetype of the wounded healer, the one who descends into the darkness not only to survive, but to return with wisdom. If this is resonating, it is because you know it already. I do not teach you anything you do not already carry. I am only reflecting what your unconscious has been trying to show you all along. The brokenness you feel is the map. It is the call to wholeness. And wholeness does not mean perfection. It means integration. It means welcoming all parts of the psyche, light and dark, conscious and unconscious, human and divine. And so I ask you not to fix yourself, but to listen. Listen to the ache beneath your ribs. Listen to the dreams that return again and again. Listen to the patterns in your life that refuse to change, for they are the handwriting of the soul. And as you listen, begin to walk not away from your brokenness, but into it, for therein lies the path to the self. Let me stop here for a moment. Let you breathe. Let your heart speak back to these words. Then we shall continue the descent. There's more to reveal in the darkness. If you are willing to keep your eyes open, you are still here. That means the descent has begun. When we speak of being broken, we must ask broken in relation to what broken compared to whom society has defined a narrow corridor of acceptable behavior, and all who stray from it are labeled deviant. But I tell you, the corridor is too narrow for the soul. The soul is vast. It holds contradictions. It erupts in paradox. It longs for both union and solitude, peace and chaos, death and rebirth. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to expand. The suffering you feel is not merely personal pathology. It is a sacred tension. The tension between your inner truth and the external expectation. And this tension, if endured consciously, becomes alchemy. Just as base metals are transmuted into gold, so too is the wounded psyche transmuted into wisdom. But the process is not gentle. It is fire. It is dissolution. It is the symbolic death of who you were, so that who you are may emerge. Let me take you deeper. In ancient myths, there is a recurring figure, the hermit. He lives on the mountain, in caves, in deserts. He has retreated from the world, but not out of fear. He retreats because the world has become too loud for truth. In the stillness of solitude, he communes with what others run from. You may have become such a hermit, not in physical isolation, but in your internal posture. You have withdrawn from superficial noise because you are attuned to a different frequency, one beneath the surface of ordinary awareness. And in this silence, something begins to stir. You start to see the pattern not just in yourself, but in others. You sense that behind every smile is a story, behind every anger is an old wound. You recognize the masks people wear because you too wore them, and as you shed them, the world becomes transparent, painfully so. You no longer have the luxury of denial. This is the burden of awakening, to see the unconscious motivations behind behavior, to feel the inherited wounds of your lineage, to watch people betray their truth in exchange for acceptance. And so you feel broken, but the break is the opening. Through that opening, a deeper light shines, the light of your individuation. The world may tell you to be healed, but I will ask you instead to be whole. And wholeness includes your scars. It includes your rage. It includes your confusion, your envy, your grief. These are not symptoms to be eliminated. They are fragments of the psyche that long to be seen, to be heard, to be woven back into the tapestry of the self. Let me offer a dream. A man once came to me with a recurring vision. He stood at the edge of a great forest. Inside the forest, he could hear cries, snarls, whispers, but he never entered. He would wake in sweat, night after night. Standing at the edge, he asked what it meant. I told him, the forest is your soul. The cries are your unlived life. The snarls are your repressed anger. The whispers are the voices of ancestors who never spoke their truth. You stand at the edge because you fear what you'll become if you enter, but the only way forward is through the forest. This is the truth of the inner world. No map can replace the journey. No philosophy can substitute for the raw experience of the descent. You must meet your monsters. You must speak to your abandoned child. You must face the seductions of the ego and the loneliness of freedom. There is no shortcut. Only through, only down, only in. Yet you do not travel alone. The psyche, though it feels isolating, is not isolated. You are part of a collective, unconscious, a psychic field that holds every myth, every archetype, every ancient story. That is why you resonate with certain tales. That is why you feel seen by poems, music, ancient symbols. You are not creating meaning out of nothing. You are remembering what your soul already knows. Do you understand now why you have always felt apart? Not because you are flawed, but because you are sensitive to this archetypal dimension. The child who feels invisible in a crowded room is not necessarily shy. Sometimes that child is sensing the falsehood in the room's energy. The adult who cries during a stranger's funeral is not overly emotional. Sometimes that adult is carrying the unlived mourning of their own family system. What others deny, you absorb. What they repress, you express. And this makes you feel mad. But madness, in its true form, is often the voice of the unintegrated shadow screaming for attention. It is the unconscious demanding to be acknowledged. The ancients knew this. They built rituals to contain such energy. They danced it, sung it, painted it, but we have silenced the ritual. And now the modern psyche breaks beneath its weight. You are not broken. You are initiated. Initiation is always preceded by fragmentation. The old self must dissolve. The ego must lose its throne. The identity must crumble. This is not a mistake. This is the precursor to rebirth. The shaman shakes, the mystic weeps, the prophet flees into the desert. These are not signs of failure, but of becoming. You may feel tired of being different, tired of carrying the burden of seeing. But I say this to you gently, the seeing is your gift. It is your sacred task. Not to fix the world, but to awaken in it, to bring consciousness to unconscious patterns, to stop cycles passed through generations, to weep the tears. Your mother never cried to rage, the rage your father buried, to dream the dreams your ancestors abandoned. This is soul work. It is invisible. It is often thankless, but it is holy. And in time, the sense of brokenness shifts. It becomes reverence. You begin to hold your scars like scripture. You begin to bow to your own journey. You realize the breakdown was the breakthrough. You see the descent as a return not to who you were told to be, but to who you truly are. The self is not found in perfection. It is found in the sacred tension between opposites, between light and dark, between human and divine, between joy and sorrow. This is what others deny. They seek resolution. But the soul seeks balance. Wholeness is not symmetry. It is sacred contradiction. And so your pain has meaning, not meaning as justification, but meaning as orientation. Your brokenness points somewhere. It points to what must be loved. It points to what has been forgotten. It points to the wound that, when embraced, becomes a doorway. What you feel is not madness. It is the birth pangs of authenticity. You were never meant to remain unconscious. The world needs your eyes, your insight, your ache, because what you feel in yourself, you will learn to feel in others. Your depth will create space for their depth. Your truth will give them permission. Your tears will sanctify theirs. But only if you stop pretending to be fine. Stop pretending to be normal. Stop shrinking to fit into a world that was never built for souls like yours. This is the invitation, and it is not for the faint of heart, but if you accept, you will not be alone. Every myth, every symbol, every sacred dream will rise to guide you. The unconscious does not abandon those who seek it. It challenges, it tests, but it also leads. You do not have to have the answers. You only need to stay present to the questions, to the symbols, to the ache. Let the psyche speak. Let your symptoms be letters. Let your sadness be scripture. You are not broken. You are being initiated into mystery, and we are only beginning. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the ache of isolation becomes unbearable, not because you are physically alone, but because you carry within you a world so different, so mythically alive, that few can recognize its language. You try to speak, but your words fall like stones into a well. They echo, but no one answers. And so you begin to doubt, is it me? Am I the one who's wrong? Let me assure you, you are not wrong. You are deep, and in the shallow world, Depth feels like drowning. The sorrow that clings to you is not a pathology. It is the echo of the unlived life. For the grief of knowing something essential has been lost not only in you, but in all of us. You feel broken because you still feel at all. You haven't numbed yourself to the madness of modernity. You haven't sacrificed the sacred in exchange for convenience. You haven't let the fire in your soul go out. And that fire, though it burns, is also your light. You see what others deny, because the symbolic dimension of reality has not closed for you. Most people lose their mythic vision in childhood. They stop believing that the world is alive, that every tree watches, that every shadow whispers. But you continue to listen. You still dream in archetypes. You still feel the presence of the unseen. You see meaning in moments others overlook. This is not illusion. It is vision. But vision comes at a price. To live in contact with the archetypal realm is to live in contact with the sacred wound. And the sacred wound, by its very nature, cannot be explained away, cannot be fixed, cannot be medicated into silence. It must be honored. It must be listened to. It must be made holy. Because through the wound, the self calls you through the pain. The soul signals that there is more. You are not here to follow rules. You are here to remember. And what you are remembering is older than any doctrine, older than any nation, older than time. You are remembering the original language of the soul, the language of dreams, of symbols, of intuition and sensation, of darkness and rebirth. So let us speak of this remembering. When you feel broken, you are often on the threshold between who you were told to be and who you truly are. The threshold is no place for the faint of heart. It is a liminal space, a psychic crossroads where the old ego dies and the deeper self begins to rise. It is here where the false gods of productivity, appearance, and validation fall away. It is here where you meet your shadow, not as an enemy, but as a guide. The shadow, you must understand, is not darkness in the way we fear it. It is the unseen, the unacknowledged, the forbidden. It holds both your rage and your creativity, your fear and your intuition, your shame and your power. The shadow is your unclaimed potential. And to reclaim it, you must be willing to feel what you've suppressed, to say what you've silenced, to be who you once buried. That is what it means to integrate, and integration is not perfection. It is not enlightenment. It is wholeness. It is standing in the center of yourself with all your parts fractured, forgotten, fierce, and saying, you are welcome here. You belong. You are me. This is why your pain intensifies before it releases, because the psyche does not let go of illusions easily. The illusions of control, of certainty, of who you thought you had to be. These are threads tightly woven into your identity. And when the self begins to emerge, it shakes those threads loose. That shaking feels like anxiety, like depression, like chaos. But beneath that chaos is the great reorganization of your soul, And if you are still here, if you are still listening, it is because some part of you already knows this to be true. You are not here for surface living. You are here to descend. You are here to go down into your childhood wounds, into your ancestral echoes, into the psychic underworld where the true self sleeps. And when you wake it, you will not be the same. The world will not be the same. You will speak differently. You will move differently. You will no longer live from reaction, but from reverence. But this reverence is not loud. It is quiet. It does not scream truth. It embodies it, and others will sense it. Some will be drawn to you. Without knowing why, others will resent you because your very presence confronts their denial. They will call you too intense, too emotional, too different. But what they mean is, you are not asleep like us. You are not pretending like us. You remember, and remembering is dangerous to the ego, to society, to the systems built on forgetting, but it is also holy. There is an ancient image that speaks to this, remembering. The alchemists called it the conjunctio, the sacred marriage of opposites. It is a union of fire and water, light and dark, masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious. This union does not happen by accident. It happens through suffering, through staying with the wound long enough for it to speak, through refusing to abandon the parts of yourself that others find inconvenient. So I ask you now, can you stay with the discomfort? Can you stay with the brokenness? Not to fix it, but to feel it. Because in that staying, something begins to shift. You stop running. You stop escaping. And in the stillness, the self arrives. It does not come with fireworks. It comes in silence, in symbols, in dreams you do not understand but cannot forget. One day, you will look back and see that your pain was a portal, that the nights you felt most shattered were the nights the psyche opened, that what you called broken was actually breaking through, and you will weep not from sadness, but from awe. You are not here to be healed in the way the world defines healing. You are here to transform, to allow your pain to become poetry, to let your scars be initiation marks, to turn your descent into wisdom. And that wisdom will not come from books or lectures or even these words. It will come from your direct experience of the mystery, from the symbols that choose you, from the patterns that repeat until you finally see this is not the easy path, but it is the path of the soul. You are not broken. You are being reborn. Let us now return to where we began, but not as we were. The spiral of the psyche never leads back to the same point. It deepens. The soul does not walk in straight lines, but in circles that descend inward, ever inward, toward the essence. And in this final descent, something begins to happen that is hard to name, not a resolution, not a cure, but a sacred quiet, an interior stillness that arrives when the war within you no longer needs a winner. This is where the brokenness transforms. It does not vanish. No, you still carry the same ache, the same longing, in the same old songs of sorrow, but they begin to sound different. They become music rather than noise. You stop resenting them. You start listening. You begin to walk with your sadness like an old friend, not an enemy. It sits beside you, not on top of you. You do not silence it, nor do you let it drown you. You coexist. That is maturity. That is wholeness. And when others look at you and ask how you did it, you will not offer formulas. You will not say, I fixed myself. You will say, I descended, I grieved, I surrendered. I learned to sit in the fire without needing it to go out. You will say, I let go of who I thought I had to be so I could remember who I already was. And they may not understand. That is fine. Not everyone is ready. Some people will remain in their denial, in their persona, in their surface life. That is their path. But you are called to something deeper. You have always been, you are the watcher of dreams, the translator of symbols, the holder of ancestral pain and the midwife of ancestral healing. You are the one who felt the rift in the collective and tried to stitch it with your own body. You are the one who stayed awake while others slept. And though it hurt, though it broke you, though it nearly shattered your will to remain, you are still here. Do not underestimate what that means. There is strength in you that no mirror can reflect because it does not lie on the surface. It is the strength of the soul, ancient, enduring, rooted in something far beneath this moment. You carry in your being the whisper of the divine, the longing of the world to be made whole, and that longing moves through you. You have cried the tears. Others refuse to cry. You have held the grief that others disowned. You have stared at the shadow when others turned away. This is not weakness. It is capacity. It is the very essence of what I called the wounded healer, the archetype who heals not by rising above suffering, but by descending so fully into it that suffering loses its power. That healer lives in you now. And I tell you, the world needs you not as a savior, not as a solution, but as a presence that has met its own depths and no longer fears the dark, a presence that makes space for others to feel, to awaken, to descend and return. You were never broken. You were always being initiated. You were not cursed. You were chosen, not by some external God, but by the inner call of your own self, the archetypal force that longs for union, for wholeness, for truth. That force lives in all of us, but only a few choose to follow it. You did, and for that you suffered, and for that you were remade. Now you are ready to walk differently, not with answers, but with presence, not with certainty, but with humility, not with perfection, but with compassion. You no longer need to fix the world. You need only to embody your truth. The very act of you standing in your authentic self is a revolution in a world addicted to performance. And should you ever forget this, and you will, for the soul's work is not linear return to this. You feel deeply because you are meant to. You see what others deny because you are built to witness. You ache because you remember. And remembering is the first step to returning to the self, to the myth, to the center of the mandala. That is your being. One day, perhaps not far from now, you will meet someone who feels the way you once did. Their eyes will carry the same confusion, the same grief, and the same question. Why do I feel so broken? And you will not flinch. You will not try to fix them. You will not speak too quickly. You will only look at them with the knowing gaze of one who has descended. And you will say, you are not broken. You are seeing what others cannot. Let it guide you. And in that moment, you will become what you always needed, a witness, a mirror, a companion in the dark. And your brokenness will no longer be a burden. It will be a gift. This is the paradox of the psyche. What once shattered you becomes the very thing that brings others home. So go now, not back into the world unchanged, but forward, inward, downward, and upward all at once. Let your life be the myth. Let your scars be scripture. Let your silence be sanctuary. And let your presence be permission. You were never broken. You were being revealed. And now you are whole.